With us now is Rabbi Marc Schneier, the president of the Foundation for Ethnic Understanding. Thank you so much for coming in. I want to ask you, we're seeing here quite a few condemnations coming from Israel's new partners in the region, the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain. Are you concerned that maybe some of this amazing progress that has been made in the last year or so, or almost 2 years now, since the signing of the Abraham Accords, could maybe unravel due to the recent events that we're seeing in Jerusalem?
I'm not concerned at all. If anything, we need a little perspective. We need context. Recently, over the last 4 weeks, there were 4 major terrorist attacks here in Israel. 14 Israelis were killed, countless civilians injured, and for the first time, we saw the leadership of the UAE, Bahrain, Morocco, President Erdogan of Turkey, who unequivocally expressed their solidarity with Israel, who unequivocally denounced these Palestinian terrorists. And I think that's the spirit of what's now taking place, not only in the Gulf, but throughout the Arab and Muslim world. When it comes to the unfortunate incident that took place at the Temple Mount on Friday, yes, I do think that these Arab nations are expressing concern, but there is a new spirit that support for Israel, support for the Palestinians are not mutually exclusive, and I think that people are even more determined to maintain that commitment between the Arab Muslim world and the Jewish state.
Right, and you mentioned there Turkey, which is a country that Israel has had a problematic relationship, to say the least, over the last decade or so. We are seeing that the ties are beginning to mend a little bit. Turkey also joined in the condemnation of Israel following those events in Jerusalem, but now a phone call being initiated between the Israeli President Isaac Herzog and Turkish President Recep Erdogan to try to kind of talk a bit about what's going on. You personally apparently were involved also in this process. What can you tell us?
Well, for the last 7 months, my partner was the Turkish ambassador in Washington, Murat Merjan. We literally orchestrated and facilitated this rapprochement between Israel and Turkey. I was in Ankara with President Herzog when he went to visit President Erdogan. There is a genuine, authentic commitment on both sides to celebrate the new reconciliation, the new rapprochement. And again, it's all about context. You know, President Erdogan did not weigh in on his condemnation till 48 hours after the incident Friday morning. You heard from the UAE, you heard from Morocco, you heard from Jordan, you heard from all these countries. In the past, President Erdogan was the first person to speak out against Israel, and his rhetoric and diatribe was not exactly the most pleasant thing for Israelis to hear. It's a very different time. You know, in Passover we say Manishtana, right? Why isn't this night different? I'm telling you why this situation is different. And I know firsthand that President Erdogan will express his commitment that when there are conflicts, they need to be resolved diplomatically, not by shouting and not by threats.
Is there anyone there in Turkey working under Erdogan? We have the foreign minister, maybe other people that you are in contact with who are playing an active role when it comes to lowering the tensions in Jerusalem, and maybe also want to play an active role in the future to lower tensions between Israel and the factions in the Gaza Strip?
My response to you on a daily basis, morning, evening, those who are closest to President Erdogan himself, it's a new chapter. It's a new chapter. And President Erdogan is very committed to this new reconciliation that will be even more evident, I predict, over the next few days.
How do you know that, though, that President Erdogan himself is committed to this?
Because I know that.
From people who are in direct contact with Erdogan?
Minimally from the people who are in direct contact, correct.
Rabbi Marc Schneier, I want to say thank you very much for coming in. That was really fascinating to kind of talk about what is going on here in the new Middle East. And hearing it from your words, it sounds like, despite the fact that looking from the outside right now, it looks like there is a lot of tension and things maybe are kind of going backwards. According to you, that is not the case, and it's certainly good.
It's all about context. It's all about the contrast. And the responses today are light years more positive than what we heard in the past.
Marc Schneier, president of the Foundation for Ethnic Understanding, thank you very much for coming in.
My pleasure.